So my friend Evie Greenlee died last Sunday night. If you're watching this morning, I'll be doing her funeral in just a couple of hours. Evie was in her mid 60s, but for the last 10 or 12 years, she's had Alzheimer's, been in a memory care facility the last 3 or 4 years, hadn't been herself in some ways for a long time. I'm real good friends with her husband, Ed. In fact, Ed and Evie and my wife, Marcia, and I served together as elder and elders wives for probably 10 or 12 years a few years ago. Great people, love them dearly. And I want to tell you what I've learned about life from watching Evie. Now, you may be thinking, wait a minute, I don't have Alzheimer's. I'm not going to get Alzheimer's. I get all the reasons you think you won't need to hear this. But I'm telling you, you've got something to learn from Evie. So here are the three things that have really made a difference for me that I've learned from Evie Greenlee. Number one, well, life's not fair. She got this disease early. She got it in her early 50s. It robbed her of her career. Over time, it made her marriage hard because her husband had to be the caregiver and she couldn't be what she wanted to be. Couldn't be the mom to her three girls. Couldn't be the grandmother to her grandchildren. It just seemed so unfair, so young. And then she dies, and all some of us can think is, how unfair is that? And you know what? Wouldn't have ever heard that from Evie. Even when she started getting this disease and knew it was coming, she processed it really, really well. She didn't ask, why is this happening to me? Her biggest question was, how can I glorify God in this? You know, we Christians should know it's a hard world, and we shouldn't be surprised when bad things happen to us and others. I've watched Evie, and I need to remember that. Evie's eye was fixed on a much better world than this one, and I appreciate that. She did that because she loves Jesus. That's the second thing I've learned from Evie. Love Jesus and love people. Boy, did she. She was always sweet and kind. Her husband, Ed, will tell you that in the early years of their marriage, it was rocky sometimes, and they might not have made it, except Evie loved Jesus and said, you're going to love Jesus too, and he's going to fix our marriage, and he did. Boy, they were such a great role model for so many young couples. Evie was sweet and kind and generous, always had a great smile because she loved Jesus, taught children's classes for years, raised three strong girls who all have posted about their mom passing and their hope of heaven, seeing her again. That's a legacy. Evie did all that because of Jesus. So watching Evie, I've learned, yeah, life's not fair, but Jesus makes it okay. And here's the other thing I've learned watching Evie. What you do now and how you act now molds the legacy you leave and how people remember you and how you act when you can't always function the way you want to. You know, Evie stayed sweet and kind to the end. I'm one of those guys that kind of believes when hard times come, the real character comes out. Well, Evie was Evie right to the end. She was sweet and she smiled, and they still talk about with great respect and awe and reverence the way she was at that memory care facility she had to go to the last 3 years. She would see people that seemed upset, and Evie would hug them. And you could see when people would come sing, you could see Evie, even though she couldn't verbalize a lot of it, you'd see her start singing those old hymns because that was Evie's heart. Care about people. Sing hymns. You know, if you said, let's pray for a long, long time, even though she couldn't process, she would bow her head to pray. Evie left a great legacy. Who Evie was who she still was and who she is. Difference is, lots of us prayed for a long time for Evie to be healed. Well, God did answer that prayer, not in the way we wanted. We would have asked for a miraculous healing that testified to God's power, and she could have another 20 years of life as a wife and a mom and a grandmother and someday a great-grandmother. It didn't happen that way, but God did heal her. Not in the arms of her husband, but in the arms of Jesus. And I needed that lesson. So, Evie, boy, thank you. I'll see you soon, but I appreciate what you did for all of us and the way you have led us to love Jesus even more. This is Steve Ridgell being thankful I had a friend like Evie.